one thing for me that like when I had the Kundalini Awakening, it was very, like it was 4 hours of torture first.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
Well,
tell us about your awakening. Tell us about your Kundalini, because we have awakenings more and more, but tell us about this one.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I did to begin with. So I got this message because I started getting this soul speech, and so these teachings in the morning, and I got this intuitive message saying, today's the day you've been waiting for. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And I'm like, and it was like not today, but the time is now. So everything that you've been waiting for.
Time is always now, isn't it?
Yeah, right. I did a post about, but then I deleted it because it said, it's not for anyone else. This is for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I went home and I said to my neighbour, I've tried to meditate with my son and I couldn't get deep enough because he was there. And I said, would you mind having him for a little bit over your house? And this was all like coming to me that this is what you needed to do.
Yeah.
And then I went and I set up a crystal grid, which I'd never done gridding. I just followed what I was supposed to do. And I began a meditation. And now in this meditation, I access Akashic Records. And I pulled in everything that I needed to have a Kundalini awakening. I consciously, with intent, pulled down every possible thing I needed for it to occur.
Okay. So just quickly before I go further, because a lot of people listening will be in different parts of their journey. What are Akashic Records? Just quickly. I can't just quickly that. So we're going to end up talking for hours and hours.
I know. So Akashic Records is basically, I guess, some people have referred to it as a book of lives or the book of your existence. And so it's somewhere where you can access, and this is all my personal interpretation, somewhere where you can access different lifetimes of wisdom, soul journey, talents, gifts from past that you haven't discovered in this life or you haven't used in this life. Which if you've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is that movie where they access different gifts in different lives. So like one, she knows Kung Fu and like all the things. So it's a little bit, that's a funny way to look at it, but it's a little bit like that. And so I was guided to do this, just PS. So if somebody goes and tries to do it and it doesn't work, well, I was intuitively led the steps of what to do. And so that's what happened. And then I was just doing meditation and all of a sudden, right at the back, at the bottom of my tailbone, just this intense, but it was this intense squeezing. Like I didn't know. It was like more than just muscles, but all of my muscles were contracting. And I almost felt like I was clenching so tight that I was off the ground, and then it just started moving up my back, and it was like my whole body was just like in this intense, I don't know, it was just like a rock basically. And it sort of didn't go much further past, I guess, maybe solar plexus for a while. And then it was very, what's the word? Uncomfortable. And it was also matched with mudras, which is uncontrollable hand movements.
Okay.
Lots of hissing.
Hissing?
Yes. Lots of hissing, lots of like movement with the mouth and the body. Into really, really interesting positions. And there was a part of me that was like, I should be filming this because it was next level, right? But I just couldn't. Anyway, so I looked at the clock when it sort of eased a bit and it was 1:11 and I was like, okay, maybe it's over. And then it just dragged me back in again. And that happened and I guess once every hour it sort of relaxed and then it would come back again. Now, an interesting thing that happened was in the grid around me, I had an amethyst wand, right? And it was guiding me. Well, I didn't really have a choice. It was putting this amethyst wand on certain parts of my body and healing it. And so I guess this had a part in the thyroid thing as well. But one other part was it was on my lung for quite a while. And it said to me that it was healing the lung cancer. I had lung cancer cells in my lung. And I was told that it was healing it. And then when it got to my throat, because it was sort of like started at the bottom and made its way up, it was pushing really, really hard against my throat for quite some time. And I just surrendered and allowed the whole thing. So it was about 3 hours later, I'd messaged my shamanic teacher and I was like, can I life after this? Like, is this going to stop, basically? And he said, I'll call you soon. And when he called me, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. And by this stage, I almost felt like he'd sent me like a bit of healing or something, because I started to feel like this warm liquid, like similar to what you were saying.
I know that feeling.
Right? And this heat. And it almost felt like I got this image of like a black and a white snake. And the black snake was all of the writhing and the moving through the energy and like the blockages and all of that. And then the white snake came and it was almost like she was licking the wounds and she was filling the space with this just blissful feeling of just like, you've done it. You've overcome the hard part now. You've earned, you know, this beautiful bliss. And when I spoke to my shamanic trainer, he assisted me in pulling me down to the ground, right? And that's when it just went off like a fucking rocket. It just went straight from the root through the crown in this uncontrollable, like, screaming explosion. And then I just laid on the bed and surrendered to it, which was, you know, the whole bliss thing.
Yeah.
But it's not like I've heard people refer to it as sexual, but it didn't feel like that to me. It was so different than sexual. It was like, just, like this warmth of, I don't know. But it's important for me to know, and for others, I guess, watching or listening, that it's always going to be different. For everyone, yeah. And also for when these, people are moving towards awakening and they have these strange things happen to them, to try not to go into fear, because it's you've been working towards this for a long time, and to it's all part of the process, the good, the bad, but not the indifferent. Yes, and that's one thing I was blessed with was having the shamanic training and knowing a bit, like Kundalini was brought into my awareness. A lot of people have the awakening without really realizing what it is. And it can, it can lead people to mental illness and things because it's very, very powerful. And if you go sort of mainstream with it and go and see a doctor, well, they're not going to understand what's happening. So the beauty about the internet and things like that these days is, there's a lot of misinformation on there, but there's also a lot of places where you can get a better understanding about what is occurring. And I think that's why these beautiful podcasts and things like that are so important for people, because we need to be sharing these stories because it's all occurring everywhere and so rapidly now that people don't know what it is or what to do.
It is covered in goosebumps at the moment, or in Indigenous culture, they call them the soul bumps, and that every single goosebump is one of your ancestors talking to you when you have goosebumps.
Oh, that's beautiful.
When you get that bang, when you talk about something and you get those goosebumps, it's every single one of them's a lifetime telling you that you're in truth, or it can be the opposite too, I guess, if it feels horrible. So
that's amazing.
I notice when you're talking about stuff, you all of them go bang and you're full of goosebumps. Well, in our beautiful Indigenous culture, that's what it means. It's all your ancestors, all your past lives, all your ancestors.
Yeah, that's
all
phenomenal.
talking to you.
Yeah.
No, I love that. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is.
So, yeah, I had well, I'll tell you about I might as well tell you about now, my Kundalini Awakening, or what I call it that. I told you about the Dr. Joe and the ecstasy in the head and all that sort of thing. And then from that day forward, all I have to do is breathe, and it might take a couple of minutes to get into this beautiful euphoric state. And when I say full body orgasm, I don't mean that in a sexual way. It's just a way to try and describe it.
Yeah.
Another way is that the slight feeling, that feeling you get just before you sneeze. It's a really nice feeling when you get that. It's a very poor way to describe it, but that again times 100.
Yeah.
Because when I go to sneeze, it sends me into bliss.
Oh.
As soon as I sneeze, I go straight into
Oh, dear.
And it's very freeing, especially as a man, to be able to have this, being able to give myself this beautiful energy and not chase sexual energy instead of that, you know.
Yes.
And it's very freeing because we're conditioned and programmed to do that from the time we're little as well, you know.
Absolutely.
So my experience, which was on this very couch here a bit over a year ago, and I'll just go through it briefly because I want to explain it a lot better in another podcast, as I'd got frustrated with meditating and the monkey mind and everything, and I had this thing about getting to the other side of the veil because I had activated my pineal gland, and that's what we're talking about with awakening really, is activating the pineal gland and having that. And that Dr. Joe exercise wasn't even before I meditated every time. That's what got me there. So sitting here and I'm, still with that, and I want to go to the other side of the veil and travel. I've got friends who go to other planets and all this sort of thing, and past lives and all that. And, I was just really, I wanted it way too much,
Yeah.
I don't want it anymore.
That's it.
Well, if it comes, it comes,
Yeah.
But, and of course I realise now that I've sort of been doing a little bit of that without realising it. I just wanted the full experience, you know. So I decided, because I'm very good at putting my energy wherever I want in my body, I decided to put my energy into my pineal gland and concentrate my awareness and my energy in my pineal gland for as long as it took for something to happen. So I was determined. I'd met someone and we'd had a beautiful conversation about spiritual stuff instead of music. And so I'm laying here and I started putting all my energy in my pineal gland, and I started writhing, saying my whole body was just writhing in pure ecstasy and pure euphoria, and I can't describe it. There are no words to describe what it felt like. My muscles are all contracting and everything all over, and I'm going, oh my God, and I'm laughing, and sometimes I'd stand up and walk around for a little while, and then I'd lay back down again, and I was just going, oh my God, what I'd felt before, it was like 10 times more. What I felt in my brain was now my whole body.
Yeah.
My whole body was like this liquid, incredible ecstasy. And I keep going like that, and I thought, I'm going to keep doing it now. But then, of course, it turned to the shadow side, right? So I've gone down, and all of a sudden I'm looking at my lungs. And I used to smoke a lot of dope. I smoked for many years as a painkiller and that, but I was just an addict. So, addictive personality, as well as painkiller and other stuff, So I'm looking at my lungs and I can see all this red stuff like lava and all the black caked stuff on the top of my lungs, right? I'm going, oh my God, look at what I've done to my lungs. And I'm fearing like, And as an aside, before this, I had taken myself to hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. And apparently it's quite common, Yeah. I happened to my mum and I was talking to other friends, and like just this incredible pain in my heart because I'm starting to peel away the hurt from my heart, So I'm laying there and I'm looking at my lungs and that, and I'm going, oh my God, you got to look after yourself now. It was always in the future, I'll look after it, I'll do this, I'll get myself better later, some mythical time in the future.
Yeah.
So, and then I went to my heart, and my heart looked like a grey, ugly beehive is the best way I can describe. The ones you see Winnie the Pooh, the beehive like that. That's what it looked like. But it was all grey and horrible. I'm looking at it and going, oh my God, look at that. And I didn't understand at the time that it was all the shadow, all the shit that needed to come off of it for me to truly be me, basically. So I looked at that and, that was horrible. That was like, grand. And I thought, I'm keep going. Because I felt like stopping what I was doing because I didn't like it at all. I didn't like what I was seeing. I wanted to stop putting my energy in that third eye and go, okay, I'll just stick with the bliss. Thanks very much, you know.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And I could do that every day, all day, no problem. And I thought, no, you're going to do this. So I kept putting the energy in there, and then all of a sudden I went into nothingness, into the void like I never had before, and there was nothing. I didn't exist, nothing existed, and went down into this like darkness, it's hard to describe, into what, and then all I saw, all that was like a white capsule about this big, just this white capsule, and I'm sort of looking at it, being this white capsule, looking at it. And then all of a sudden I had the most terrifying, incredible fear I've ever felt in my life. Why, I don't know. I'm just assuming that I realised that I was nothing or something like that. And it bolted me out of it, right? And I sort of came back to where I was, and I'm shaking in fear and absolute, oh my God. Because I think, I looked out as a realisation that everything I knew was an illusion. Everything I knew, everything I was, everything I'd been, everything I'd done, this little white capsule was somehow the whole universe or something like that, you know. I don't know what it's called because I do everything by intuition. I don't read lots. I only go by talking with friends, right? So I don't know if it's still point or the consciousness itself. Or I really don't know. But it was absolutely horrifyingly scary for me because I didn't want to accept it or whatever it was. Anyway, and then I over that one. I said, no, do it again. So I put it in there again. And so I'd faced it, and I was prepared to face it again. Yeah. I now realise because I was prepared to face it again, it didn't happen again. So, and then the ecstasy's just writhing. I'm writhing like this, laying here on this couch, just going on and on. And I realised I was hungry and thirsty. I'd been laying here for about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. My whole body, I felt like I'd played a game of football. Yeah. Anyway, I made my way, staggered my way to the kitchen, and I thought, I don't want to eat shit food because I've seen my lungs, I've seen my heart. I need no shit food anymore. So I'm trying to chop up veggies, right? And I'm just still going, like this. And I had to stop. I had to put the knife down because I was so uncoordinated that I was going to cut my fingers. Yeah. And I'm still in this ecstasy. So I'm standing there and I'm just going, oh, my God. And all of a sudden I felt like I was just growing. I was like 25 feet tall, right? And sort of semi-transparent. I reckon I weighed about 2 kilos, right? And I'm about 25 feet tall. Like this, and then I felt like I was being squeezed through an hourglass, right? Yeah. I was getting squeezed through this hourglass, and I'm going, oh my God, can this get any better? You know, it was just level after level after level. It was just indescribable. I'm trying to describe it as best I can. Yeah. So then I'm laying there, and then I'm standing there, and then I'm going, oh my God, and I have my eyes closed, and I'm just going with it, and then all of a sudden, from my torso up, it's like a beam of white light, right, about the size of my body, and it was going all the way up into the universe, all the way up into the sky, into space, into everywhere, like that. And I'm going, oh, my God. And then I can't quite remember what happened. I opened my eyes and it was still happening, right, even with my eyes open, right. And then it came from my feet, from underneath me, from around my feet, and this white light was completely enveloped me, this beautiful translucent light went all the way up into the universe, right. And I'm going, oh, my God, and I'm standing there, and then my whole fucking body disappeared, and I was this beam of white light. It was like a big pipe but with no edges on it, right? And this beam of light was going up, but it wasn't going up, it was coming down because it's light, going both ways. And I was this beam of light, and the ecstasy and the incredible feeling was, I cannot describe it. What I thought was incredible was just next level again. And I'm just standing in this beam of light and everything, and I'm laughing like that, and I don't know how long that happened for. And my life irrevocably changed from that moment forward.
That's right.
So to me, that was my sort of like Kundalini, or I don't know what it was. I don't need to know what it is. But,
that's right.
But once you've been a beam of light, there's no turning back, really.
No. And it's beautiful because, with my shamanic training was very much like, you are this conduit. You are that channel, that connection between spirit and earth, who's here to bring spirit down into and share it around, but also into the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's one of my favourite practices, is to sit outside, draw the sun in through my crown chakra, and then down into the earth, into Mother Gaia, and then spread it around the suburbs.
Yeah.
And like I said, the more I imagine that and do it, and it brings that ecstasy on, and the more I share it and say, oh, no, it's not for me, because basically I build myself up first till I've got this incredible ecstasy. And then once I've got enough and I'm full, I'm basically full, then I start spreading it out. I spread it out in the local suburbs. Sometimes I put it to certain people, to wherever. And the more I let go of it and share it, the stronger it gets.
That's right. That's right. Isn't it amazing? It's like upgrading. A friend of mine calls it leveling up. She's like, oh, when I assist people to level up, I level up. And so that's like this. And it's, part of it, I think, has to be that way, because as human and how we're built, it's like there needs to be that push. There needs to be that continuation of you keep going. And that's why I think with everything needs to be transcended, is it doesn't matter where you're comfortable. If you're comfortable, you've stopped,
Yeah.
And it's just that I listened to a David Bowie thing the other day, and he said, so go to where you're comfortable and then take 2 steps forward. He said, and stay there.
Yeah.
So every time you start being comfortable again, take those 2 steps forward. And that's when, I tend to refer to it as being lived, because if you have this desire within you, and I'm not talking material desire or human desire, ego desire, when you have this desire in you, like something wants to be birthed, something wants to be created, it's up to us to get out of the way, as far as I'm concerned, because we're the only one holding us back. Spirit's got endless opportunities, and we can't even imagine. But we need to get out of that comfort zone and take that 2 steps forward and just go, oh, my God, I can do it. Oh, my God.
And to move into the unknown, into the differences, to not take any from the past and just be open to something new.
That's right.
And it brings so much magic into your life to do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of magic, I've got a couple of little things that we're going to do on the thing. And one of this is the Ask and It Is Given cards from Esther and Jerry Hicks. So they're, I thought what we might do is I'll shuffle it here and we'll pick one out. And
Jerry.
Yeah, Abraham Hicks. I'm not quite sure who he is, but he's got some pretty good sayings. I don't know who most people are, to be honest. Okay, well, here we go. This card is My Attention to It Invites It In. This is what came up, right?
Yeah.
Every thought that you give your attention to expands and becomes a bigger part of your vibrational mix. Whether it's a thought of something you want or a thought of something you do not want, your attention to it invites the essence of it into your experience.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Well, interestingly, but not, coincidental at all, because there is no coincidence.
Yeah.
This morning I was actually speaking to a friend who's going through a bit of a difficult time at the moment with medical things. And she was expressing how her mind's running wild because she's having to get tests done, and, the what ifs are getting ridiculously crazy in her head, as you can imagine. And it's the big C. And so what I spoke to her this morning about was basically this. And it was, she was trying to, these, I want to say beautiful thoughts, because you've got to sort of turn it into that. That's the way I feel anyway. These beautiful thoughts were coming through as these reminders of what you are not. And it was the attention that she was giving them by trying to expel them that was making them more potent. And I said, what would happen if you just accepted them? if just went, oh, yeah, that's a possibility. Oh, yeah, that's a thought. Oh, yeah. They lose their power and they dissipate. And so, you know, we often spend so much time about thinking positive, which is amazing. But when we're faced in this difficult situation, and the mind is incredible by leading us down the wormhole, then we can just go, okay, and accept the thought, and it loses all power. Like Dr. Joe would say, you know, what fires together wires together. If you don't feed it at one end, it goes out and it disappears. So, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it's easy to say, but, you know, when you're facing the big sea and that sort of thing, but of course you've had that experience.
Yes, which is why we're connected. That's the thing. And I know that she's been this beautiful gift, and I her as well. But, you know, to be honest, I had an NDE. So the bus hit me, you know, she's sort of at the brick. And so, you know, it's a big turning point, and it is for me as well to see it as you know, we can tell people what to do, but it's not about telling what people to do. It's holding space while people uncover what it is that they are going to do, or what, you know, their own sort of experience and teaching. Yeah,
that's an interesting point, because I think I've learned how to hold space only recently, and experience of holding space for someone that really was a full-on holding space, someone who'd been through quite a bit of tragedy. And I learned how to hold space over the course of a week or two, because I wanted to, and I wanted to hold space and be there. And when we try and give advice or tell people what to do and everything, and nowadays sometimes I think, well, to just sit there and hold space, our higher self can talk to their higher self, our innate intelligence can talk to theirs, and we don't actually have to say anything.
Yeah.
You just sit there and hold space for them and let that beautiful energy that you've got to give, that higher vibration, and they've got the lower vibration, and maybe just our vibration of being with them can help raise their vibration, and therefore it is healing in itself, just by sitting there in high vibration with someone and holding space for them and just accepting what is, even if they're not accepting what is and they're going through whatever they're going through. Or maybe they are, and you're just helping them work through it themselves. Yeah, that's right. And because that's it, you know, that realisation that I had when I woke up, like actually physically woke up after the surgery, was I looked at the doctor and I thought, he's not going to fix me. He's just a person like me that read a book. I was just I saw life so differently, because no one was going to save me anymore. I didn't need saving. I saw it in a way of, you know, everybody equal, for starters, and it just a very, very balanced. It's up to me. It's up to me to change, and it's up to me to discover and uncover, and you know, that sort of what sets you on your journey. So these life-changing events are part of that. Yeah, realising your sovereignty. That's right. And that you're the only person that can do anything, because when you're relying on someone else, there's no, and we talk about not having control, but in this case, to have the control, the knowing that you if you want something to happen, you've got to do it yourself. That's right. You can rely on other people and they may do it for you, but then you don't have your own power. You don't have your own destiny. You don't have your own anything. And that's another reality paradox, which is going to be the book that I'm writing. And it's just that you need to take control to be able to fully surrender. And it is a paradox, because, you know, we have been taught all of our life someone's going to come and save us, whether it's a superhero when you're a kid, or whether it's the government, or whether it's the medical system. Yeah. Unless you reach that point where you go, nobody's coming to save me, it's all up to me, then you're always a victim to something until that day. Yeah. And then I guess in a sense, you look at consciousness and everything, there's nothing to be saved in the first place. Yeah. It's all just this evolutionary process of just this beautiful unfolding. Yeah.